Hey guys, so some of you are struggling with this matrix, and so I want to kind of go over it one more time, just the matrix. That way we can cover it. You guys can figure out what's kind of going on here. All right, so I think by using a mug, I kind of confused some people. So we're not going to use that. We're going to use something else. So I'm just going to get rid of my stuff right here. And gotta get rid of the picture. All that stuff. Alright. So now that I got rid of some of the stuff on here, again, I'm gonna pick a different object, maybe something that is a little bit more relatable. All right, so I'm actually going to pick, for some reason I keep getting Yahoo on here. I think I have to change it, so we're gonna quickly go here, and I'm gonna pick actually a game. All right, so I'm gonna pick Slime Rancher because that's actually one of my favorite personal games here. And guys, it's still man-made. Okay, someone had to make this game. Okay, and I'm just gonna talk about the game for this. Okay, because I know a lot of you guys can relate to it a little bit more. So I'm gonna grab this picture, copy image. I'm gonna go to the matrix. Control V. All right. So again, Slime Rancher is a man-made game. All right. It's a very, if you've never played it, I personally find it fun, but I like farming games, so that might be why. So the product, Slime Rancher, the game. All right. So I think I spelled slime wrong. Slime. There we go. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the elements of design and the principles of design. Now they are two different things, okay? However, you can use them for everyday objects and different things of that nature, all right? So we're going to quickly go here. I know you guys were struggling with it, so I did put a video. So some guy talks about the elements and principles of design here. She mostly relates it to an art class, but however, those concepts are used across industries, guys. Okay, they're not just used. They're not just used in art; they're used across everything. And the other thing I wanted to kind of touch up on is this PowerPoint, which a lot of you guys, I think, kind of skimmed over. So right here we talk about the elements. So we have point, line, color, value, shape, form, space, and texture. So that's all here in the very beginning. All right. And it talks about the colors and different things. And then when we start getting down a little bit further past textures here, we get to principles of design. So that's balance, emphasis, contrast, unity, proportion, rhythm, economy. All right. So I'm going to touch base on each one of these things individually. All right. First one I'm going to touch base on is point. All right. Now, when you're thinking of point, all right, as it relates to my Slime Rancher game, okay? So my little Slime Rancher game here, okay? When I think of point, it's simply a location. So in this case, when I start up Slime Rancher, I have a specified location that I start up with at any given time, okay? So I'm going to go up here to point, all right? So description of using elements of design. So I'm going to right away kind of in this box, since this box doesn't exist up here. Okay, this box doesn't exist. This box right here. this line doesn't exist. I'm going to use it to help me kind of define different things in Slime Rancher that relate to point. Okay, so point. Again, in Slime Rancher, the place you start is the farm. Okay, so that's a point. Okay, it's a place. All right, in the game, it's an actual physical place. So there's my point. That's the simplest thing. It's used to indicate a location. Very simple. Line. It can be used to define boundaries, volume, perspectives, depths, create texture, patterns, suggested movement, imply emotion. So line has all these things that incorporate everything else in elements and everything else in principles. So line can be very much used to, it can be a destination. It can be a, like, if I'm using point, okay, you know how you have a point A and a point B on a map? That line that connects it has only a length and dimension, okay, right there. But it also defines where I'm going and where I've been, okay? And there's different types of line, okay? You have vertical, horizontal, diagonal, and curved, all right? And they talk about each one of these here. So vertical lines characterize dignity, formality, stability, and strength, okay? When you're thinking of things that are very tall, and you're looking at it and you're thinking, oh geez, that thing's huge, okay? It automatically gives you this sense of, hey, that thing is like very powerful, okay? Be it a building, be it a person, be it maybe in the game. Okay, let's use Slime Rancher here. So Slime Rancher, I'll go back to my thing. Slime Rancher uses line a lot because they have a lot of images that show height on in the game, okay? And they also have, you know, the different lines that are used to show when something's like bigger than others, okay? So we can say that line in this case, in Slime Rancher, the use of line to kind of show stability when you're coming through the game, there's these big towers. So towers in game show entrance of the farm and stability. All right. They're showing that the farm is a safe place to be, okay, by those massive tall towers, okay, that are clearly bigger than you, okay. If you go into one section of the game, there's also if you're playing based on the story, there's a section in the game that you can go to. It's past the crystal caves. I forget what the location is called, but there's big towers. They're not towers. What are they? They almost look like gazebos. So gazebos that are huge. And they show this by using line in the, if you think of Greek architecture, all right, so I know it kind of looks like that sentence is very staggered, but that's because this is just meant to help me remember things. But they have like these gazebo looking things. That's the best way I can describe it. And they have like the Greek architecture style for the pillars that have line in them. And Greek architecture uses a lot of line to show strength and stability when you're using it. So that's like an example that I would put for there. All right, so we got that's just vertical lines. Horizontal lines represent peace, calm, relaxation. They're meant to kind of go, everything's okay. Then you have diagonal. It gives you a sense of movement and action, okay? Line is very hard to use by itself, okay? Then you got curved lines. This is very whimsical stuff when you see curved lines. I mean, look at that toy. It's very whimsical. Curved lines give a sense of freedom and smooth mood. Now we're getting to color. So you have color has a couple different things. So I'm going to go back to the matrix. So the next thing up is color. Now, color can be described by a number of qualities. It has the hue, the value, the saturation. When you're looking at color, okay, just in hue itself, we're looking at the coloring wheel. Okay, I'm sure most of you have come across the color wheel more than once. So the color wheel here, you have your primary colors, you have your secondary colors, you have your contrasting colors. All that plays a role in here. And then you have your cool and warm colors. So cool colors kind of give you a sense of peace and calm and tranquility, whereas your warm colors kind of rev you up. Let's get going. Oh, if anyone has played the Pokemon Go app on their phone, okay, that app right there, okay, you can be 3 different characters. Okay, what's red? She's a raging, moving person, okay? What's yellow? Okay, yellow, so red's all the way over here. Think of it as like a I'm warming up scale, okay? So red's all the way over here. Hot, fire, ready, set, go, okay? That is red players, truly, okay? If you're a red player, I'm sorry in advance. All right, yellow is the more, I'm going, yes, I'm kind of competitive. Yeah, I'm here. All right. All right, because it's kind of in the middle. It's both, I'm cool and calm, but I'm ready to go. Whereas blue is kind of more, I'm just here to have fun. I really don't care. Like, let's keep moving here. But I'm just here to have fun. So you can see which one side I'm on. But that's what color does. So if we look at Slime Rancher, there's a lot of different colors right off the bat. However, because the slimes are all different colors, but depending on which place you go, depending on like which place you go in Slime Rancher, depends on the color coordination in that area, okay? Because they're playing on that colors. They're playing on that theme. Like you can see here in this image, it's very bright. There's a lot of bright colors. There's no real dark colors. I mean, yeah, you got some dark greens, but on this scale, you know, even that green color is kind of in the middle. You know, it's not necessarily a cool color. And so it's meant to be a bright and fun game. So if I go here to color, all right, the first thing I can say about this element is that Slime Rancher, I probably don't have to say Slime Rancher constantly here, but Slime Rancher color is used to make the game seem happy and carefree. Until you run into the nasty slime, but that's besides the point. But that's what color does. It has immediate, like the statement right here, color has an immediate and profound effect on design. Okay? When I look at this design here, okay, right off the bat, this Jeep is plugged in. and I'm assuming they're trying to represent that it's plugged into this leaf here, that automatically tells me green. Okay, why? Because everything's green. All right, color, whether you realize it or not, plays a role in our society for simple things. When you go to the gas station to put, you know, gas in your car, the yellow nozzle thing, it represents diesel. Okay, so you have a diesel component. It might not be yellow either. It might be red. Okay, it depends on how old the gas station is and which one you're going to. But those two colors stand out to you because they want you to stop and think for a moment, do you want to put diesel in your car? Because most people want to put normal gas in their car. Okay, hence why normal gas nozzles are just black, because it's kind of a, I'm not going to think about it color, and there you go. So color automatically can have this effect on you that you don't even realize is there. Like when you see, or at least for me, when I see the color green, I automatically think nature, environment, and helping. Okay, those three terms come to my head automatically. So color, whether you realize it or not, plays a vast role in our society. I painted my kitchen, or not my kitchen, my dining room last year. And the two colors I used were yellow, or three colors actually. I used yellow, and then I speckled orange on top of it, and then the bottom of it is red. The reason I did that, the dining room doesn't get a lot of light. Okay, so we're going back to this part of it here. So lightness or dark, we're kind of talking about value and saturation at here at the moment. So it doesn't get a lot of light. There's a lot of windows, but because it's at the back of the house where the sun doesn't really hit that much, it doesn't get a lot of light. So I was looking for these bright colors to kind of help with my saturation intensity of the room, giving it a brighter feel than it actually was. However, I put a cool color on top because it honestly was too much yellow. I put a cool color on top to very contrast those colors, and that was a very dark woodsy brown. Okay, for my molding, my curtains, you know, my flooring is a stone flooring, which I didn't change. So color plays a heavy role. Even you don't realize you do it, but when you paint a room, when you choose a car, when you choose that case for your phone, color plays a role. And then we come to value. So this is relative lightness or darkness of a color, object, or shape. So we're looking at this rubber ducky. That's obviously a dark version of the rubber ducky. He's evil. Then we have the normal version of the rubber ducky. He's fine. And then we have this, you know, floofy of a rubber ducky over here who's barely present. All right. So value does give you another sense. Okay. That's where I was saying with the color, you can have different shades of the color. Okay, so like I have a really bright yellow and a really bright red, matching it with a really dark brown. So everything, the value of it kind of goes with each other and balances each other out. So my yellow might look like this with none of the brown on it, but I put that brown on top of it and automatically my value changes and becomes a little, I'm not going to say lighter, but darker. So value allows us to perceive shapes and illusions of the 3D objects on a 2D surface. So Slime Rancher, clearly 2D. However, I can see, for instance, I'm pointing at this one. I should have this one up first. Okay, so I'm pointing at this right here. You see how there's a shadow? Okay, that helps with value. Okay, because this is clearly 2D, but because of the shading, because of, you know, the way things are differently colored, okay, So this one's looking directly at me with its smiling face. It is looking directly at me. So right here is very light. This is farther away, so that's why it's dark. Contrast, this one right here, I'm only looking at the side view of it. So it's light here, dark back here. And again, those shadows, they play a big role. They add value to the object. So right here, all right, I can say that Slime Rancher shows value. We're going to go right back here. So I can say that Slime Rancher shows value because it is a 2D object, but it gives me the illusion of 3D. Okay, so 2D object gives illusion of 3D. Okay, so there's clear, and this is based on shadowing and color coordination. I spelled shadowing. Why did I use a P? I don't know. Doesn't like my word shadowing. Why? Shading? Oh, wants me to say shading. Okay, same difference. Whatever. Whatever, Google. Whatever. All right, so. And then the next thing is shape. So a 2D area enclosed by lines or curves. Shape is one of those things where you can have 3 different types. I shouldn't say 3. You can have almost more than 3 different types because they can kind of they can kind of go into each other. So you have geometrics, which is what you learned in preschool. You learn shapes in preschool, kindergarten, preschool, whatever. You know, those are your square, your circle, your triangle. Then you have the mechanical, which are simple shapes made of straight lines and curves. Think of, hi Facebook, go away Facebook. All right, so mechanical is more of those simple shapes. They're showing you more of what's going on and so forth. They're giving you more structure. Think of gears, think of buildings, whatever have you. Then you have organic, or these are natural shapes. Think of leaves. Leaves are organic. When something is considered organic, it is made by nature, or it's free flowing and it's curvy and it seems, for better lack of word, natural. Okay, so if I go to here, okay, go away Facebook. All right, I don't know how to shut that off. All right, so never had that problem before. So when we're doing this right here, so you got different shapes in this. There's actually a lot of shapes in here. One of the things that I always take away is what are the shapes trying to represent. So for instance, you got these really natural swirly shapes here, right? Some of them are 3D in nature, some of them are 2D in nature. Now these swirly shapes in the game are supposed to represent grass, okay? Or a type of grass. A very whimsical grass. So that is something that shape-wise that's 2D that makes it seem apparent in 3D. Then you have different other shapes that help you represent what they're supposed to be. So for instance, this here right here is clearly supposed to be a plant because of its natural shape. It's very, same here, it looks very natural. It looks like a pine tree. That's how I know it's a pine, or a type of pine tree, is based upon its shape. Okay, it's a shape. When you think of shape, think of what you already associate that shape with. All right, so these slimes right here, they're probably meant that way because, or created that way because they're very free forming and everything else. They move very like natural like. I wish I could shut that off. They're very natural like and very free forming. So when you're looking at the shape of an object, okay, You're basically touching on those things. What makes it organic, geometric, or, you know, mechanical? In this case, in Slime Rancher, there's no real, let me rephrase that. There is mechanical because you have to get through doors and keys and stuff. There is normal shapes. However, those normal shapes, they've kind of curved them and made them a little bit more, I'm going to say simple. All right. Because it's meant for kids. I personally like it, but whatever. So if I go here to this geometric thing, I'm going to talk about shape. So right off the bat, I can say that the shape in Slime Rancher is touching on a couple different things. All right. So again, we're mostly doing organic shapes here. So organic shapes are represented by the line types in this case. See how like things kind of go together? So like, yeah, I'm talking about shape, but however, I'm also talking about line. All right. So shapes are represented by the line types used, such as more natural and free forming. Okay. So very organic type of shapes. All right, and this is, I don't know what this is from. This looks like it's from a game. And then we get to form. Okay, so form's that next one right here. So form, a 3D volume or solid, often implied on a 2D surface by careful use of value. Okay, so again, we're talking about form and we're talking about value. All right, so value is inherently used to create form, and that is through the use of shading and shadowing. Okay, so right off the bat, I can use, go away. All right, might have to stop the video for a moment just so I can turn that off somehow. I don't know why it's even going off. Quick pause. I gotta figure this out. All right, we're back. I think I turned off the notifications finally. It was driving me nuts. All right. What were we talking about? Form. Okay. So I can use, in this case, almost the same thing I used with value. Seriously, I turn off my notifications and now this stupid bird is banging on the window here. I don't know what is wrong with this bird at all. We have this red cardinal that will come and, like, there's a tree right next to the window and he'll come and he'll bang on the window and then go back to the tree and then come and bang on the window and then go back to the tree. It's so weird. And he takes turns because the tree is also attached to another window in the kitchen. So he constantly goes back from the living room to the kitchen. It's whatever. Anyways, I digress. So form. All right. So we're using the same thing as value to represent form. Okay. So again, if I go back to this presentation here, so form, a 3D value of solid also implied in 2D surface. So you can kind of see it with the use of shapes as well, actually. All right, and it's all about shading. It's all about, at this point, we're kind of taking everything we've talked about so far and adding it up. Think of it as math class. All right, as I go through here, they kind of correlate with each other, like 1 plus 1 equals 2. Okay, so here, because you use point and line almost congruently, then 2 plus 1 equals 3. Okay, because you can't have value without line and color, because shading is also a type of color. It kind of adds up on each other. And then we have form. So form, we're using all this other stuff. So you can't have form without value. You can't have form without shape. So in here, the shadows, I forgot an A. The shadows show the form of the object being 3D, okay? I know that it's a 3D object because of the shadow, all right? Because of the form of it, all right? Now we have space. This video is going to be very long. Sorry in advance. Then you have space. Areas between or around the parts of an image or the implied depth in that image, okay? So space can be represented as positive and negative, all right? We use space a lot when we're designing rooms, putting up picture frames, when we're playing games, because if you think about it, when you're creating a video game, you have positive and you have negative space, okay? Negative space is the lack of something being there, whereas positive space is something actually being there, all right? So it's very evident in images with depth. So if you're going through a video game and you can clearly see something at the end of the tunnel, as it were, like in this picture here, it's creating depth. It's showing that there's more to something than there needs to be. So it can either be open and uncluttered or cramped and busy. So if I'm looking at this image right here, this right here is cluttered. There's a lot of stuff going on. However, you have this space right here which there's nothing going on. So this right here is the negative space. This right here is the positive space. All right. And if we look at this image here, okay, the chairs and the people's the positive space. The stuff with no one around it is the negative space. Okay. So when you're laying out, when you're laying out a classroom, I have to figure out where are you guys going to be, which is my positive space, and where I'm going to be and be able to walk around, which is the negative space. All right. So those things are used all the time in every place you go. So it's space is not just meant for art. It's really I use space more when I'm designing objects than anything, because I'm trying to figure out where my negative space and my positive space is, especially with laying out things. Right now I'm fixing up my house, so like this for me is like something I'm using all the time. So if we correlate that with Slime Rancher. So in Slime Rancher, hey, you can use it based on a garden method here. Okay, so Slime Rancher has gardening in it, which you use to feed the slime, if you don't know what that is. All right, so, whoa, what did I do? Okay. Touching things I shouldn't be. So right here, and you can apply space to gardening. It's kind of insane how often you can apply space to. But you have positive and negative in gardening, okay? So this is my positive. The carrot is my positive space. The spacing in between my carrot rows is my negative space. So that's what I'm going to put here. So my garden beds represent positive and negative spacing. Apparently I can't spell. It's too early in the morning for this. I can't spell. I spelled positive wrong, because there's always an extra I where I don't think there should be one. All right, so they represent, okay, so garden beds represent positive and negative spacing. with the food. I'll just put food. I'm not going to necessarily say carrots because you can grow other things in there and it does the same thing. All right, so we talked about space, texture. So the surface, the look or the feel. Now, anything can have texture. The control I'm using to play the game has different textures on it because it's meant to help you figure out what buttons you should be using, okay? So for instance, the game controller I'm using is an Xbox game controller and it's very smooth, okay? It's got a very smooth texture until I get up to the buttons area, okay? Then it's a little more rough, you know, because the buttons are there, they're above the actual surface of the thing, and that's so that I know which buttons I'm using. The Joy-Cons, you know, they're there, and you know, they got a rough feel on them too, but that's so that my fingers can stick to them, all right? And, so, you know, the list goes on and on. You can have smooth textures and rough textures all over the place, and they can be a feel thing, but it also can be a look thing. So if you see a smooth surface, the smooth surface will normally reflect light, okay, and it's more intense in color normally. Think of a car, okay, those video games that have cars in them, the cars are nice and smooth. They're not rough by any means. They reflect the light, okay? They're normally a very vibrant color. Even black seems vibrant in a car racing game because of the smoothness and the reflectiveness. Rough, however, absorbs more light. It appears darker because it creates more form and it creates more value and it creates more shape. Okay, you see how this like +1 +1 +1 thing is going here? So, they got fluffy here. I find that funny because I have baby ducks right now and they got out. So I had them in like this old bird cage I had. It had a flat bottom and they got out through a hole in the bird cage. And yesterday when I was doing these videos, all of a sudden the peeping got awfully loud and they had gotten out and they were in my living room. And I'm like, oh, well then. So that's why the fluffy, I'm kind of probably laughing more than I should. Anyways, so you got the smooth here. So this smooth texture, it's reflecting everything else. The rough texture, not so much. It's not reflecting. It's giving a sense of depth and contrast here, but it's not reflecting in any way. So it's very, you can tell it's very rough because of the shading and the shadowing and everything else like that. So that is the last one we have is texture. So if I go to Slime Rancher, oh my gosh, there is so much texture in Slime Rancher. Just looking at these trees, I can see there's texture. Okay, looking at these trees right here, I can see that there's texture. Okay, because of the shapes and the forms that are used. Okay, because of the shading that's involved. And that's what I'm going to put right there for texture is, and in this case, I'm going to put rough and smooth. So there is rough texture by the use of shading and value. And there is, oh, wrong there. And there is smooth texture based on the color of and reflection. Color and reflection of the surfaces. All right. So right there, I've talked about every single one of the elements as it relates to Slime Rancher. So now we're going to do principles. So you have principles of design. They add an interesting aspect to design. So you have, first let's start with balance. So visual and physical balance, the distribution of the elements within a design. So you have three of those. You have symmetrical, asymmetrical, and radical. You guys have probably talked about this in maybe in art class, if you take art in middle school. You might have also talked about it in English class, because English class sometimes hits on this balance when it comes to characters. So, or at least that's where I always felt like it was talked about the most, this element. So symmetrical, it's balance. It's a formal type of balance. Everything's equal. They're identical in visual weight in relation to the center axis. So the center point is completely the same. All right, if I'm looking at this this building here, straight dab in the middle, if I go left or I go right, it looks exactly the same. All right, everything is symmetrical. Now, in Slime Rancher, I guess we have some of that symmetricalness in Slime Rancher. It's not really. So I'm going to say no to that type of balance. Asymmetrical is the elements within the design are identical, but they're arranged to provide a balanced visual weight. Okay, these pictures don't really explain it very well. Basically, if I had so you have something tall over here, visually it looks tall. Then you have something smaller over here. Basically what it's trying to do is give you this offset. So it's showing a balance that's kiltered. Instead of feeling like complete balance here, like it's completely, I am a balanced individual. Think of yourself standing on a board with a ball in the center, or a seesaw. Okay, at this point with symmetrical balance, I am you're even. Okay, if we're talking about the seesaw, asymmetrical is where the person on the one side winds up being a little heavier, so they wind up bringing the seesaw down. Okay, so that's asymmetrical. It's the balance is uneven. Then you have radial balance, where the distribution of the components are in a circular pattern. So this is where I feel like Slime Rancher has more, is with radial and asymmetrical, personally. So, and the reason I say radial is I'm thinking of the, I think it's the crystal, no, it's not the crystal caves. It's that one place that you can go to towards the end. There's a lot of radial balance, okay? And the fact that everything is very much circular in here. So this is where, okay, now that I know my elements, I can apply my principles, okay? So this is where, before I was saying this is 1 plus 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 1, if we were doing it as math. So 1 plus 1 equals 2, plus 1 equals 3, plus 1 equals 4, so on and so forth. If we were to do the principles, they're like times that, okay? So balance times 1 equals this, or you know what I mean? So think of the principles as multiplications if the elements are pluses. So when it comes to balance, when I look at Slime Rancher, okay, and I'm going to pick this image right here. So when I look at Slime Rancher, I'm looking at the shapes. Okay, more specifically, the shapes of my objects. And even here, it's like a broken society. You kind of see how things are broken. So that's where I'm saying like it's more asymmetrical, and radial is radial because the slimes are in themselves circular. I mean, look at that one right there. So, but it's also asymmetrical because of all the brokenness in here. So if I go to here, what shows brokenness? Okay, so in this case, I am going to say we're going to go and say value. Yeah. So, and I'm gonna go off that radial. So I'm gonna go off the slimes themselves. So they're very much of a radial object because they're circular. Actually, the slimes, if we just go with the pink slimes, I could argue that they're balanced too, so they're symmetrical. So we'll say that if we're talking about the pink slime, nothing else. Yeah, but they're free forming and moving, so I guess they could be asymmetrical too. I guess it depends on who you ask. So the balance here is based upon, if we're talking about the slime, it's based upon, I'm changing my mind again, it's based upon the shape. Okay, so the slimes show shape, organic, by movement. Okay, their balance is therefore, I can't remember if there's an E after therefore or not. Oh, I guess not. The balance is therefore asymmetrical. Okay, so it's asymmetrical. Now, I can do balance. I spelled asymmetrical wrong. I can't spell today. It always trips me up when there's extra letters where I don't think there should be. So then you have line. So that's when I was talking about the radial with like that one part of the world that you can go to. Actually, there's also another part too. So when you're going, there's a part of the map that you actually have to go through this circular of slimes that you have to put plorts into the slimes' mouths. Sounds so weird, but if you play the game, you understand. But it's in a, you're going into a circle. Okay, so there's radial balance with curved lines going into a portal. That's what it winds up being, a portal. Portal to another part of the map. Okay. So right there we have different forms of balance, but the balance is only based upon the elements. Principles can only be shown if there are obvious elements present. Think of it that way. You cannot have multiplication without first having a number. Okay, so these are my numbers. These are the numbers I'm multiplying by. So then we have emphasis. So it's used to draw attention to the one area. It's a focal point. This can be achieved through many of things: size, placement, shape, contrast, use of lines. The list goes on and on. Like, you know, you have to put the buckle in with the red thing. I mean, it's drawing your eye to something. That's what emphasis is. So Slime Rancher has a lot of emphasis on things, so that makes it kind of hard. Oh, no, wait a minute. I got it. The plorts. Okay, so, yeah, you can't really see any of those. All right, so that's not... Actually, this slime right here, I forgot what it's called, but it gives you gold plorts. And this slime right here, it's very different than the other slimes in the area. You notice it right away, and you also hear it right away. So in the game, even though there's a lot of other noises going around, this one here has major emphasis put on it. Same thing actually with this guy right here. So these guys are the bad guys. And these bad guys, there's emphasis put on them coming into play based upon their color. You see how they're so much darker? Contrast wise, so like on the outside of them they're super dark, but on the inside of them when they open their mouths and everything else they're super light. They're very contrasting to the other slime in the area, so you can definitely pinpoint them out right away too. So those two right there, based upon contrast, okay, which is definitely what we can do. And I would say the shape too, because the shapes of those two are so different than the other guys, that they definitely fall under shape. And I'm going to say color too. So the emphasis is the contrast. So the emphasis of certain slimes. So some slimes are more important than others, and they represent this by contrast of colors to other slimes. They also show this with they show this by, there's no like, I can't put sound. That's the only thing. So I put the wrong man. My grammar sucks today. So they represent this mostly by the contrast of the colors to the other slimes and themselves. There you go. That's what I was looking for. All right. And this is based on, this can also be based on value right here and the shape. So the shape, the Gordo slime, that's what they're called. Gordo slimes are the bad guys. Emphasis is put on them because they are much bigger than the other slime. All right, so that is present too, okay? You could say form, okay, because the Gordos do kind of do shadowing stuff if you really wanted to. You could say point because there is points where there's more than others if you really wanted to. Then we have contrast. So this is where emphasis and contrast kind of correlate. So it's the degree of relative difference between the elements. There's a stark contrast. What happened? Okay, I don't know why that did that. But there's a stark contrast between the different elements in the way they are used. I don't know why for that one it like stopped showing. That seems so weird. There we go. All right. It can be used to emphasize an element of a design. It being used for safety purposes. Contrast can be used wherever. So in this case, I would almost say I could copy and paste this. I really could, because it's showing emphasis, it's showing color, it's also showing contrast. So on this case, I'm going to actually copy and paste, because to be honest with you, the contrast of colors is what shows the emphasis. There is also, when it comes to spacing and texture. So if I go to Slime Ranch here, I'm actually going to go back up to that picture I was predominantly using. So right here, I can see the forms and the shapes of things. Mostly the forms. So shadows show the forms of the object being 3D. That's a heavy contrast, okay? Especially for some of the pictures, okay? I have the shape, and then I have this massive darkness underneath, okay? So the contrast in this game is the fact that form is used with massive shading to show contrasts and layers of the game. Okay, so the contrast to show an object is really pronounced, is what I'm trying to get on here. All right, and then we have rhythm. So rhythm is, it's a repetition. It's a use of lines, shape, color, textures, or a pattern. There's a sequence. You have regular, random, graduated, and gradient. So regular rhythm is an element is represented at the same repetitive intervals. They don't have that a lot in Slime Rancher. It's apparent in some places, but it's not a big thing. Then you have random. The repetition of elements is random or situated at irregular intervals. The slimes themselves, when they're first coming out of this like portal or whatever, the rhythm is very different, okay? And this is where we have point, okay? So place at the start of the farm, but the slimes themselves come out at specified areas, okay? And they come out, what was the term I'm looking for? Random. All right. It's not set in stone. So there's the rhythm right there. It's a very random rhythm, but it's right there. Then you have the gradiated rhythm here. It's repeating the element as an identical with the exception of one detail increasing or decreasing. I'm going to say no to that one. That doesn't really happen there. Graduated, it's the repeating elements becomes closer or further away. Actually, yeah. Okay, but that goes with, again, this is the 1 + 1 = 2 and times 6. All right, so that kind of goes with space, though. Okay, so I said the garden beds represent positive and negative spacing. However, there is, to show gradiated shapes of being further away, they actually show negative spacing by a darker color. Okay, they're showing that shapes are farther away in the object. I'm thinking more of the mountains. So even when you're at the beach and you're looking across at mountains like way far in the distance, they kind of do take up this like negative space persona because they're so far away that they actually look just like a dark blue. And the game does that as well. And let's see. And then we have, I think, proportions. Nope. So, and then we have proportions. It's comparative relationships between the elements, okay? So you have scale proportions, okay? They're some are smaller than bigger than others. You're representing some things as being bigger or smaller. They have a lot of that in here. You have the big slime, and then you have the small slime. So this is where form comes into play for me, anyways, for this specific game. So the fact that scale is represented by the size and form of the object. Okay. Mostly for slime. Okay. You have these big, huge slime, and then you have these really small slimes. So the big slime you have to get stuff from, but the scale representation is very apparent. They're actually even bigger than you. They also show a lot of, they're very proportional in the game. They actually represent you pretty well. So that's all shown. And it mostly is shown in the form. You could argue here that value is shown too because they do create shadowing. Which one's value under? So I can actually put it there. So value, what did I do? I did something. My screen's a touch screen, so sometimes I do things without realizing it. So value is right here. So value, scale is shown by the shadowing of, I'll put shading so it doesn't have issues, shading of objects. All right, and then we come to the last two, which is unity, the consistent use of design elements. Oh, that is totally the slimes themselves. So the slimes are used constantly throughout this. And the oasis. And when you go to the desert part, you have the oases. The oases are used constantly. So we can put point for unity, which is the oases. The constant use of the how do you spell oasis? Oases. Ha! I spelled it right. Constant use of the oases in designated areas. And then you have definitely shape. Yes. So we're going to put that for shape. The slimes themselves. The initial shape is constantly reused. Just maybe done up slightly different. So there's definitely unity there. Okay, a constant use of a design element. The slimes are definitely one of them, and the oases are. So then you have economy. The use of the bare minimum of elements can be achieved by removing things. There's a simplicity and beauty to it. Oh, and look, there's a thing down here. Economy. So when I taught a woods class, I would teach the kids what's called as the KISS method, which is keep it simple, stupid, which is basically what economy is. You're keeping it simple and keeping it so that it is a design that is both elegant, sleek, and there's hardly anything really with it. I'm going to say the farm, when you start, okay, at the start of the farm, so this is where point would be. So start of the farm is very simple and nothing is there, to be honest with you. There is nothing there. So that would be the only economy I could really put for slime. But it's a very simplicity in the design. Okay, there's nothing extravagant about it. Obviously, this is a video game we're talking about, which is that's why it's kind of hard to find economy in here. But there you go. I filled out the matrix. All right, and I used it based on a video game, which again is a man-made object because you didn't go outside and pluck the video game off of a tree. So, you know, we're looking for human-made objects, man-made objects, whatever term you want to use. And you're filling out this matrix based upon how the elements, or I should say, how the principles play off the elements. All right, so it might be easier for you guys first to fill out the elements section and then fill out the principle section. So for those of you guys who are struggling, this is a super long video and I understand that. However, if you keep it up with me and keep going through with me with this video, you should be fine. So with that said, that's all I got for you. See ya in the next video, maybe. All right. Bye.